Okay, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, come learn what assessments there are. Early childhood tests galore. DALS has what you're looking for. Today, this afternoon, thank you so much for joining me. Our 45-minute webinar will provide an overview of early childhood assessments that include the digital library for schools that can be utilized by a variety of school professionals. You can assess for school readiness, developmental delay, or disability with Pearson's early childhood suite of tools available through your DALS subscription. My name is Ellen Balses. I'm a senior clinical assessment consultant and school psychologist for Pearson. I am excited today to talk about the developmental or early childhood assessments that have unlimited access within the digital assessment library subscription. So first, what is the Digital Assessment Library? It is an annual site license that provides the entire district unlimited access to a library of more than 40 assessments, and these are our gold standard assessments for schools. In the US, for a fixed annual price based on the district's total IEPs, your districts will have a license to use the entire library and our systems for administration, scoring, and reporting, and data storage. However, it is important to note that the users of the Digital Assessment Library are not limited to testing only students with IEPs. The district can use the library to test any and all students for whom the district is responsible. This includes initial assessments, re-evals, the evaluation of students who do not end up qualifying for services, or students who are homeschooled, students who attend local charter schools, and students who are referred for gifted, talented programs, etc. The digital library, or DALS for short, can be used by any of your staff. And if you add new users during the school year, the cost remains the same. Professional staff who we generally see utilizing the DALS are school psychologists, speech language pathologists, social workers in the schools, OTPTs, diagnosticians, behavior specialists, and special ed teachers who give assessment batteries. You're also welcome to use the DALS with any interns or contract staff as well. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk about administration overview, our two platforms, the developmental assessments, achievement and readiness assessments, cognitive assessments, behavior, speech language, and if we're lucky, we'll have 5 minutes left for questions. But if not, you'll have my email and you can reach out to me and we can have a one-on-one consultation at your convenience. So let's start with the two platforms that the DALS is housed in. The first one we'll cover is Q Global. Q Global is a web-based platform for scoring and reporting, as well as the administration of many assessments that are often self-administered and unproctored, like a questionnaire or a rating scale. Q Global allows you to generate scores and reports on any internet-connected device, even for assessments that are administered using paper forms. You can also email a secure link to teachers, parents, or caregivers for the convenient completion of assessments on their own device. You can print selected rating scales off Q Global when digital administration is not an option. And this is priceless. You can access test manuals from school or home or anywhere in your Q Global account. So the benefits for you as a professional are the efficiency. The online format streamlines the assessment process, saving time in administration, scoring, and reporting. Accessibility is huge. You have 24-hour accessibility to the platform and data-driven insights. The automated scoring and detailed reporting enhance the ability to make informed decisions regarding interventions and support services, etc. This is what it looks like and very easy to navigate. The second platform is Q Interactive. Q Interactive is an intuitive portable system that uses two iPad devices connected through technology within the hardware to administer interactive assessments. Some assessments are the WIPSI, the SELF, the Bracken. All of that can be done in a one-on-one environment, and there's no internet connection required for the administration of these assessments. Some of the benefits for you are, again, efficiency. The digital format streamlines the assessment process, reducing time spent on administering, scoring, and report generation. Engagement. The interactive and visual appealing format can help improve the engagement of children during testing because, in fact, most children are digital natives and we're meeting them where they are. And then finally, data-driven insights. Immediate scoring and detailed reporting enhance the ability to make informed decisions regarding interventions and support services. With your DALS subscription, there's training on how to use both Q Interactive and Q Global that is complementary through training modules. And finally, for those assessments that are not digital, we have the DALS Plus. For these tests, we provide all the record forms and protocols to administer the test at no additional cost. Throughout this presentation, if the test we are highlighting is available on the DALS Plus, the slide will be in green. Okay, so let's dive into some of the standardized assessment tools most commonly used for screening and evaluation in early childhood. We'll start with the developmental screeners and assessments to include the DIAL-4, the EASY, and the Bailey. At a glance reference, here's a cross comparison of our three most popular preschool assessments that we will focus on today. Please notice that all three of these tests are offered both in English and in Spanish, and they can be administered on paper and pencil with additional scoring options. The first one we're going to talk about is the EASY-3. The Early Screening Inventory, also known as the EASY-3, is a standardized developmental screening assessment tool designed for children age 3.0 to 511 to identify those who are at risk for developmental delays and may require special ed support for successful school performance. This is a level A qual, which means that there's no special qualifications to administer it. As I mentioned, it is available both in English and Spanish, and it is individually administered. Areas of assessment assessed are visual motor and adaptive, language and cognition, and gross motor development. The EASY-3 also includes a parent questionnaire, which looks at social development, educational history, and pertinent medical information that may impact a child's functioning in the school setting. So the purpose of the EASY-3 is early identification. It aims to identify children who may benefit from further assessment or intervention services due to developmental delays. Also used for developmental monitoring. It helps track developmental progress and can be used periodically to monitor changes over time and for guiding intervention. The results can inform instructional strategies and interventions tailored to that child's needs. The EASY-3 evaluates 5 key developmental domains: gross motor, which is large muscle movements and coordination, such as running, jumping, and climbing; fine motor, which evaluates hand-eye coordination and manipulation skills, including drawing, cutting, and using small objects; language, it measures both receptive and expressive language skills involving vocabulary, understanding, and communication abilities; cognitive looks at problem-solving, memory, and other cognitive skills relevant to learning; and the very important social emotional. It evaluates social interactions, emotional regulation, and the ability to play. In terms of administration, the format is the EZ3 includes both parent questionnaires and direct assessment conducted by a professional. For time, the assessment typically takes 30 minutes to administer, depending on the child's engagement and the setting. In terms of scoring, the EZ3 provides scores in each domain, indicating whether a child is developing within typical ranges or if they are at risk for delays. And the results are compared to normative data based on the child's age, which helps identify areas of strength and need. So the benefit for you, the professional, is it gives you a great comprehensive, holistic view of the child's development, which is essential for planning effective interventions and early intervention. It's key for identifying at-risk children and can lead to timely interventions, which are critical for improving outcomes. The next test we're going to cover is the developmental indicators for the assessment of learning, the DIAL-4. It is also a standardized developmental screening tool designed to assess the developmental skills of children aged 2-6 to 5-11 in both English and Spanish. It's commonly administered by educators, psychologists, or other early childhood professionals to identify developmental delays, and this is a level B instrument. So the purpose of the DIAL is early identification, again, to identify children who may be at risk for developmental delays in various domains, facilitating early intervention when necessary. Also for developmental monitoring, it provides a framework for monitoring a child's developmental progress over time, which can inform instructional practices and interventions. And it too is a comprehensive evaluation. It offers insights into a child's strengths and areas needing support across different developmental domains. So the DIAL-4 assesses 5 key areas of development. It evaluates the motor development, which is gross and fine motor, cognitive, problem-solving skills and reasoning, relevant to early learning, language, both receptive and expressive, including vocabulary, communication, and understanding. Also social emotional. It evaluates a child's ability to interact with others, regulate emotions, and engage in play. And also an important category called self-help, the ability to perform basic self-care tasks such as dressing, eating, and toileting. In terms of administration, it can be administered through direct observation and interaction with the child, supplemented by caregiver input or questionnaires, and the assessment typically takes 20 to 30 minutes to complete, making it relatively quick and efficient. There's also very important group guidelines for administration. So the DIAL-4 also employs a distinctive stations approach, enabling the simultaneous and efficient screening of multiple children at the same time. Each performance area, including motor concepts language, requires about 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes for administration. The assessment provides scores for each of the 5 domains, offering total scores, percentile ranks, and standard scores. Additionally, it calculates a DIAL-4 total score based on the sum of all those areas of motor, concept, and language. And users can select the percentile cutoff that aligns with their state guidelines, in our case, California, for evaluation. The DIAL-4 provides scores in each developmental domain, indicating whether a child is developing within typical ranges or if they require further evaluation or intervention. And the results are compared to normative data, allowing practitioners to assess a child's development in relation to age-appropriate expectations. So the benefit to you is, again, it's a holistic assessment. It gives you a comprehensive overview of the child's development. It facilitates early intervention, And a great piece for collaboration. This assessment promotes collaboration language among parents, educators, and clinicians by providing a common framework for understanding a child's developmental needs. Okay, next we'll go to the speed dial. The speed dial is a brief version of the comprehensive dial, and it is designed to quickly assess the developmental progress of young children, particularly for identifying those who may be at risk for delays. It includes 10 core items from the Dial 4, and a key point, it can be completed in approximately 20 minutes. So the purpose of this is quick screening for the rapid assessment of a child's developmental skills, making it useful in situations where time is limited. Again, it can be used for early identification and efficiency. The Dial 4, in terms of scoring, can provide quick insights into a child's development, again, with normative data, and it helps prioritize which child might need a more comprehensive evaluation. So the benefit of using the Dial 4 for you would be it is very time efficient, and it allows you to screen a large number of children quickly. The next instrument is the Bailey Skills of Infant and Toddler Development, 4th edition. It is a comprehensive assessment tool designed to evaluate the developmental function of infants and toddlers from 16 days to 42 months. This is a gold standard. It is widely used in clinical and education settings to identify developmental delays and to monitor growth and development of young children. So let's talk about some of its key features and components. It is used primarily to assess a child's developmental progress across various domains, helping to identify where a child might be at risk for delays. Also highly used for individualized intervention planning. The results can guide individualized intervention strategies to support that development. And progress monitoring. Assessment can be used to track changes in developmental functioning over time. The Bailey 4 assesses 5 key developmental domains. Cognitive, looks at problem-solving skills, memory, and other cognitive abilities. Language, assesses both receptive language, understanding, and expressive language communication. The motor is divided into 2 subgroups, but there's fine motor, assessing hand-eye coordination and manipulation skills, and gross motor. It evaluates larger movements such as crawling, walking, and jumping. Has the all-important social-emotional domain to measure also, which looks at social interactions, emotional regulation, and relationships with caregivers, and adaptive behavior. It assesses daily living skills and the ability to adapt to different environments. So in terms of administration, the assessment of cognitive, language, and motor domains is accomplished by administering structured items to the child and engaging the caregiver to support responses where appropriate. The social, emotional, and adaptive behavior scales are administered via the caregiver questionnaire, which allows them to share their own observations of the child's abilities. This assessment is most often administered by a psychologist, but can be administered by other trained professionals as well. And the direct assessment takes between 30 and 60 minutes to complete, depending on the child's age and engagement level. Now, for scoring, the Bailey 4 provides standard scores, percentile ranks, and developmental age equivalents for each domain, allowing practitioners to identify strengths and areas of concern. So the benefit for you, the professional, is it is a very comprehensive overview, and this is the gold standard And the Bailey 4 meets all 5 domains of IDEA Part C. It is multidisciplinary. It has a strong research base. It is the international gold standard and has caregiver involvement and offers digital administration and scoring. Not to mention, it gives you early intervention by recognizing developmental delays, which allows for timely support, improving those long-term outcomes for children. And it fosters collaboration among parents, educators, and healthcare professionals, promoting that important shared understanding of the developmental needs of that child. Okay, let's move now into basic concepts. Assessing basic concepts helps us look at what the child is bringing to the picture for foundations for learning. These are the basic building blocks that are crucial for a child's overall cognitive development and school success. So the first one we're going to cover is the Bracken Basic Concept Scale, 4th edition. It is an assessment tool designed to measure a child's understanding of basic concepts necessary for early learning. It is typically used with children's ages 3 to 7-11 and can help identify areas of strength and need in foundational knowledge that is crucial for academic success. There is an English and Spanish version available, and the Bracken evaluates these foundational concepts in several areas that provide insights into their readiness for school, identifying their learning needs, and if there's any additional support or intervention needed. And then you can use it for progress monitoring. You can monitor that child's progress over time in mastering these basic concepts. So the Bracken 4 concept scale assesses several key domains of basic concepts, which include the 10 subtests listed on the slide. In terms of administration, the format is typically administered one-on-one and involves a series of visual and verbal tasks that the child performs in response to prompts from the examiner. In terms of time, the entire assessment usually takes 25 to 40 minutes to get a total composite to complete, depending on the child's engagement and responses. And for scoring, the Bracken Concept Scale provides standard scores, percentile ranks that compare a child's performance to normative data based on their age groups. And it can help identify whether a child is developing typically or if they need additional support in specific areas of basic concept knowledge. So the benefit for you, the professional, is it offers a comprehensive view of that child's basic concept knowledge, which is essential for guiding early educational practices. It facilitates early intervention by identifying children who may be struggling with foundational concepts and allow for timely intervention to support their learning needs, and it's user-friendly. The straightforward format makes it easy for you to administer and interpret, facilitating communication with parents and educators about a child's progress. The next test we're going to cover is the Bracken School Readiness Assessment. This is an assessment tool designed to evaluate a child's readiness for school by measuring their knowledge of foundational skills and concepts that are essential for academic success. The assessment is typically aimed at children ages 3 to 7-11 and focuses on various domains related to school readiness. It also assesses Spanish-speaking students and includes a Spanish translation. So the purpose of this one is to determine a child's preparedness for school by assessing their understanding of key concepts and skills required for early learning, to identify their strengths and needs, and to identify where they might excel and where they might need additional support and intervention, and for guiding instruction. The assessment can inform educators and parents about the skills a child has mastered and the skills that may require further development. The Bracken School Readiness assesses several key areas relevant to school readiness, which typically include conceptual knowledge, their ability to understand basic concepts such as colors, shapes, numbers, sizes, and comparisons, their language skills, assessing their vocabulary, listening comprehension, and expressive language skills, which are essential for communication and learning in the classroom. Also looks at social emotional skills, the child's ability to interact with peers, follow directions, regulate emotions, which are critical for successful school interactions in school settings, and their cognitive skills, problem-solving abilities, memory, and attention, which are important for functioning in a classroom. So in terms of administration, the Bracket School Readiness is administered one-on-one and involves direct interaction with the child using a series of tasks and questions to assess their knowledge and skills. The assessment generally takes 10 to 20 minutes to complete, making it relatively quick and efficient. In terms of scoring, the Bracken School Readiness provides scores that can help determine a child's level of readiness for school based on normative data for their age group. And the results can identify whether a child is developing within typical ranges or may require further evaluation and intervention. So the benefits for you as a professional is, again, it's a comprehensive assessment for school readiness. It facilitates early intervention, and it is very user-friendly. All right, now let's jump into our cognitive assessments. Cognitive measures are administered by school psychologists and help identify potential developmental delays or intellectual disabilities in young children. By assessing their various cognitive domains, psychologists can determine whether a child's cognitive development is progressing within typical age expectations and help us determine how a child learns. By sharing cognitive assessment findings and discussing implication for a child's education and development, psychologists can work collaboratively with a multidisciplinary team as well as parents and educators to develop and implement effective interventions that align with the child's strength and needs. So the first one we'll talk about is the WIPC-4, the Weschler Preschool and Primary Scale of Intelligence, 4th edition. This one is specifically designed for children ages 2 years, 6 months to 7 years, 7 months, and it looks at intellectual functioning and identifying cognitive strengths and weaknesses. It is usually used widely in schools to inform decisions about school placement, academic interventions, and developmental monitoring. Some of the key features are there are age-appropriate subtests. The test is divided in 2 age bands. The first age band is 2 years, 6 months to 3 years, 11 months. The second age band is 4 years, 0 months to 7 years, 7 months. And each age band has a different set of subtests tailored to the developmental abilities of children in that age range. The core domains assessed are verbal comprehension, visual spatial, working memory, fluid reasoning, and processing speed. The composite scores provided are full-scale IQ. You can also look at primary index scores, which provide more specific insights into areas like verbal comprehension, visual spatial, working memory, etc. And again, the test is developmentally appropriate, and it's designed to be engaging and appropriate for younger children. It also accounts for varying attention spans and developmental stages. The next test is the Kaufman Assessment Battery for Children, 2nd edition, the NU. It is a comprehensive, individually administered test designed to measure cognitive abilities in children from 3 to 18 years old. It emphasizes the assessment of problem solving and information processing skills rather than acquired knowledge, which we know at this age they have very little, making it particularly useful for evaluating children from diverse linguistic and cultural and educational boundaries. One of the key features of the KBC-NU is its dual theoretical model. It is based on the Luria neuropsychological theory, which focuses on how the brain processes information in terms of sequential, simultaneous, and planning abilities, and the CHC model, the Cattell-Horn-Carroll model, which emphasizes broad and narrow cognitive abilities, offering a more traditional approach to cognitive assessment. The professional can choose which model to base the interpretation on, depending on the child's background and the referral question. As again, the KBC focuses on cognitive processing over learned content, making it unique among intelligence tests. It measures abilities in 5 key areas: sequential processing, the ability to arrange information in specific logical order, like remembering a series of numbers; simultaneous processing, the ability to integrate and synthesize information all at once, like solving puzzles or understanding visual spatial relationships; learning ability, the child's capacity to learn and retain new information over time; planning and fluid reasoning, the ability to think through and solve new problems, reflecting higher level reasoning and problem solving skills; and there is an optional knowledge subtest that measures crystallized intelligence, such as acquired knowledge, as an option. Again, it is a flexible use. In terms of scores, you can get 2 different kinds of scores. You can get a mental processing index, where we're looking based on the Luria model, where we're looking at the child's cognitive abilities, and the fluid crystallized index, which looks at both fluid reasoning and crystallized knowledge. So the big strength of this is it is culturally fair and very child-friendly. There is also the KBIT-2, which is a brief version of the bigger Kaufman Intelligence Test. This is revised for ages 4 to 90. It is a brief measure of verbal and nonverbal ability based on the more comprehensive KBC. The key features of the KBIT-2 is the short administration time. You can give this test in about 15 to 30 minutes and there are 2 major components that you can get: verbal intelligence score or a nonverbal intelligence score or an overall IQ composite. It is composed of 3 subtests: verbal knowledge, riddles, and matrices, and it is ideally used for screening, reassessment, identifying giftedness, or evaluating individuals with language impairments. And the biggest strength is it is brief and efficient. There's a nonverbal component and the broad age range. You can use this all through the lifespan of a child and an adult. All right, in this section, the last test we're going to talk about is the DALS Early Years. The Differential Ability Scale, second edition, Early Years, is a comprehensive cognitive assessment tool designed to measure the cognitive abilities of children aged 2 years, 6 months to 6 years, 11 months. It is part of the broader DALS-2 battery, which also includes the school-age battery for older children, and that one is age 7 to 17. And there is a Spanish supplement, which allows you to accurately assess Spanish-speaking children in their primary language. So the key features of the DALS Early Years is it's divided into 2 age groups. You have the lower early years, 2 years, 6 months, to 3 years, 5 months, and the upper early years, 3 years, 6 months, to 6 years, 11 months. Key cognitive domains assessed are verbal ability, nonverbal ability, and spatial ability. And in terms of scores, you can get the general conceptual ability and the special nonverbal composite. And in terms of diagnostic ability, utility, it is used to develop developmental disabilities, identify learning disabilities, evaluate for giftedness, and guide educational planning. All right, now we're going into the behavior assessments. We're going to talk about the Brown, the Basque, the Vineland, and the SSIS. So the BAS 3 stands for the Behavior Assessment System for Children, third edition. It is a comprehensive tool used to evaluate the behavior, emotions, and self-perceptions of children and young adults ages 2 to 25. It is widely used in educational settings, and it's unique because it gathers information from multiple perspectives to provide a well-rounded view of a child's behavior. Some of the core components are there's a teacher rating scale, a parent rating scale, a self-report of personality for ages 6 and up, a structured developmental history, and a student observation system. It has broad behavioral and emotional domains. It looks at externalizing behavior, internalizing behavior, school problems, and adaptive skills. And you can get composite scores for all of these areas. There's also clinical scales for aggression, hyperactivity, depression, anxiety, attention problems, conduct problems, and withdrawal. And these skills help professionals identify where a child may need intervention. And there's also adaptive skills that look at social skills, leadership, functional communication, study skills, and daily living. These skills are critical for developing strength-based interventions skills also. They have validity indexes, and intervention recommendations are also available through the BASC. The next test is the Brown Executive Function Attention Scales. These are designed to assess the executive functioning and attentional challenges often associated with conditions with ADHD and related difficulties. These scales provide insight into how problems with executive functions, which are cognitive processes that manage and regulate behavior, may impact everyday life. These scales are useful in evaluating children aged 3 to 30 years of age, and some of the key factors of the Brown are it addresses situational variability. The scales analyze an individual behavior using multiple perspectives from the examinee's self-perspective, the teacher's perspective, and the parent's perspectives. The items are much more specific and contextual, like they include items that are more specific and ask about difficulties in a specific context, like difficulty remembering what has been read, and directly and more accurately report symptoms. The items focus on severity of specific behaviors as opposed to frequency. So this is a great one to take a look at. And finally, in this category, we're looking at the Vineland Behavior Adaptive Skills. This tool is widely used for assessing adaptive behaviors, which are practical everyday skills required to function and meet the demands in the classroom. It helps identify strengths and weaknesses in communication, daily living skills, socialization, and motor skills, making it easy and useful for diagnosing and evaluating individuals with developmental delays, intellectual disabilities, ASD, and other conditions that affect daily functioning. And the last one is the Social Skills Improvement System, the Social Emotional Learning Edition. And this one is excellent because it's designed to assess and improve students' social emotional learning skills directly as it applies in a school environment. So it is really focused on self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. There's a multi-rated form for teachers, parents, and students. There's brief and full rating scales, and there's comprehensive coverage of the social skills of communication, cooperation, assertion, responsibility, empathy, engagement, and self-control. Okay, our speech and language assessments in this key area are the self preschool 3, the self P3 screener, the GIFTA, the PLS, and the PLS screener. The sub-3, the clinical evaluation of language fundamentals, 3rd edition preschool, is a standardized assessment tool designed to evaluate the language skill of preschool children, 3 to 6, 11, and identifying potential language impairments that may affect a child's academic performance, social interaction, and overall development. And it measures receptive language, expressive language, phonological awareness, concepts, and vocabulary. The PLS, the Preschool Language Scale, is designed to evaluate the language of children from birth to 7-11. It is particularly useful for identifying language delays and disorders in preschool-age children and provides a comprehensive assessment of both receptive and expressive language abilities. It looks at auditory comprehension, expressive communication, and social emotional communication, and typically takes 30 to 40 minutes to complete. The Goldman-Frisco test of articulation and the Kahn-Lewis phonological analysis are ages 2 to 21-11, and these are our TIC tests, and they measure articulation skills by assessing the production of consonant sounds in single words and sentence level, and it is typically administered in one-on-one setting and takes 15 to 20 minutes to administer. And now we'll go into the motor and sensory assessments. We have the BOT, the MABC, the MFUN, the PEDICAT, and the sensory profile, along with the Berry VMI. The BOT3 is ages 4 to 21, and it measures it measures various aspects of motor proficiency, including gross motor skills and fine motor skills. The subtests in the BOT3 assess different motor areas like fine manual control, manual coordination, body coordination, strength, and ability. It can be administered individually or in small groups and typically takes 45 to 60 minutes. It provides standard scores, percentile ranks, and age equivalents. The movement ABC is a standardized test from 3 to 25-11 and is commonly used to diagnose DCD or developmental coordination disorder. It measures manual dexterity, ball skills, static and dynamic balance. It has age-appropriate tasks and norms for ages 3 to 6 years of age, and it helps identify motor difficulties and is also excellent for intervention planning. The PEDICAT, the Pediatric Evaluation of Disability Inventory, is a standardized tool to evaluate the functional abilities and performance of children with disabilities or developmental delay. It is an assessment of functionality. It assesses a child's capabilities and daily activities and helps to identify strengths and weaknesses. It's used for eligibility, determination, and progress monitoring. And the sensory profile actually measures a child's sensory processing abilities and how these abilities, very importantly, affect their daily functioning. It looks at sensory processing patterns and their impact on the child's behavior, social interactions, and overall development, which can help inform tailored interventions to support children who have sensory processing challenges and for monitoring interventions and progress. There's an infant form for ages 0 to 6 and a toddler form for ages 7 to 35 months. For age 7 to 35 months, and it looks at sensory sensitivity, sensory avoiding, sensory seeking, registration, and fine and gross motor skills. Okay, we made it. We're right on time, and that wraps it up for today. Here is my email, and unfortunately, we didn't have time for questions, but please email me if you have any questions. You can set up consultations. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And thank you for your time today.